Hello everybody and welcome to the Epic Storm on YouTube. My name is Alex McKinley and today I'm going through a replay of the Legacy MOCs Qualifier that I played in yesterday, December 27th. So the name of the event's a little bit of a, it's weird. So basically, the event, to get to the event you had to qualify by top 8ing a Legacy showcase. And the winner of this event qualified for the big Magic Online Championship series at the end of the year, which is obviously a great prize. But in essence, if you've been following a lot of Magic Online Legacy from last year, this is the equivalent of Legacy Champs. So what this event is a little bit weird. Ended up being 26 players, which is a very small field, but everybody in this field is an absolute killer. For what that meant for me is that people could metagame specifically for the field. It was known that there were going to be lots of people playing Delver and Snow, and then a couple people on Elves, Doomsday. So when I was preparing for this event, because I've been thinking about this event for over a month, I thought I had about 3 options. I could continue to play the Epic Storm, I could attempt to learn Rogue Delver, or I could attempt to learn Turbo Depths. I decided that playing Rogue Delver into a field of Rogue Delver experts was not going to be good for my win percentage, and I don't think I could have quite learned Turbo Depths in time, and TES was going to be good against this field anyway. I didn't exactly play stock TES though. There are a couple of changes that you'll notice in this deck list in front of you. So let's start with the main deck. So you'll notice that there are no Rite of Flames. I know we've been memeing a long time about hashtag ban Rite of Flame, but in our current mapping, against all of the blue decks, we cut all 4 Rite of Flames for 4 Carpet of Flowers. So with over half the field being blue decks, I thought it made sense to start Carpet of Flowers in the main deck, and you'll see copies 1 and 2 here. So where did the other 2 Rite of Flame slots go? So they went to this Chain of Vapor, and then they went to a land, the 8th fetch land. So I thought that this left me much better prepared to fight against the blue decks in game 1, and gave me a fewer outs to some of the non-blue decks in game 1 as well, in case the loss of mana and speed made things a little bit harder. I knew that there were unlikely to be that many non-blue decks. I think that I expected about 1 lands player, 1 Death and Taxes player, maybe 1 other non-blue deck. So this made my deck list, my main deck, much better against blue in game 1, which is something that I wanted. What this did to the sideboard, however, was it opened up the slots that Carpet of Flowers normally would have stayed in, and that Chain of Vapor moved from the sideboard to the main deck. So that gave me 3 extra slots. So that means that I can have Carpets 3 and 4 sitting over here in the sideboard, as well as this Massacre, and 3 copies of Thoughtseize. So another element of this tournament is that there were a lot of combo players like Elves and Doomsday. And I think that TES, not Elves is a good matchup, but Doomsday is a harder matchup because they have the elements of being able to race us and have Force of Will. Thoughtseize takes away some of their scare game, and it disrupts their combo, because with 4 Veils and Defense Grids, we can probably beat their forces, but it's a little bit harder to prevent them from just killing us. So this is the list I ran. It was heavily metagamed. I'm not sure if I would recommend this list for an open field. I did play it a lot in leagues, and it felt great in leagues. I think land 14 was good. The Thoughtseize is really overperformed against the non-blue decks. The main deck carpets have been a great surprise to many of the opposing blue players because they're not expecting to play around it in game 1, so they are much freer with their fetching for island in those matchups. So let's get into the tournament. Because the tournament is so small, there are only 5 Swiss rounds. Let's hit my game history. So here we are in round 1. Let's fix this up a little bit. So just like last time, this is a replay review. So we're not going through the games live. This is all post-mortem, so I'm going to be talking more about some of my decisions, why I made them, and how we got here. So my opponent is Daniel Nunes, who is the Slivers master. He qualified on Slivers. He's known for this deck. I'm playing against Slivers. I know that from the moment I see this pairing. So I lose the die roll, which is really unfortunate because Slivers is a matchup where they have Chalice and Force of Will, and also can just like kind of kill you more quickly than expected. So it's not exactly, I would call it an easy matchup. I think it's very interesting. So we start on this hand. So right off the bat, I know that this card is dead. Slivers doesn't play any islands at all. So I have a dead card in my hand. But the one thing that this hand does have going for it is that it has Brainstorm, it has Veil of Summer, and it has Lion's Eye Diamond, also a Burning Wish. So this hand can very quickly turn into a protected Echo of Eons, which is kind of my plan as I was keeping this hand. I think that there is a real argument to casting turn 1 Brainstorm with this hand. I decided not to, as we'll see. I think that my plan of going end of turn Brainstorm is much better because I think that this hand really wants to go off on turn 2. So he has no play on turn 1, which is great for us. Magic Online? There we go. All right, so draw for turn is another Lotus Petal. So this is great. So this gives me the option of going off on turn 1. I believed that still waiting more was better because it gave us an extra land drop. It gave me a chance to resolve this Brainstorm. And I didn't believe that anything super bad could happen. And I think that a hand like this from our opponent means that they have a slower blue card hand. So I play Underground Sea and I pass. It's definitely likely that withdrawing the second Lotus Petal that I'm supposed to Brainstorm on turn 1, just into the void, hoping to draw more mana sources. But because there aren't any Rite of Flames in the deck, like this card would have been a Rite of Flame, it makes it a lot harder for this Brainstorm to do anything good. It would have to draw exactly Dark Ritual, and even then that's not that good because we only have 2 initial mana sources, so we can't cast Dark Ritual, Veil, and Burning Wish all in the same turn if we cast this Brainstorm. So it's our opponent's turn 2. They play another 5-color land. And they cast Unsettled Mariner. So this card used to be really, really scary before the printing of Veil because it basically means that your Tendrils always gets Flusterstormed when you target the opponent. But if you've resolved a Veil, then this card just doesn't matter. So if this is the worst my opponent is doing on turn 2, I'm pretty thrilled. I guess the replays are getting stuck. All right, there we go. So now on the end turn, I cast the Brainstorm like I planned. And this just hits straight up the nuts. So now we have a protected Peer into the Abyss. That's much better than Echo of Eons. Peer into the Abyss is almost always going to be a win on that turn. I think I've only had one that's non-deterministic, and even then I still won the game. So the putbacks are pretty easy here. We put back the Carpet first, and then the second card doesn't matter because we're going to redraw it anyway. But the Carpet's the worst card in the hand by far. It doesn't do anything. So put back Carpet, and one of the other cards, it was the Ponder, and that doesn't matter because we're just going to redraw the Ponder. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana, which is exactly enough for Veil into Peer. So I started on Lotus Petal, put in a Lotus Petal, play our LEDs, giving our opponent the chance to counter something to see if anything goes on. So now we're going to fetch up a green source and cast Veil. So unfortunately, we can't cast Veil with Burning Wish on the stack because we have to crack our LEDs, so we're just using it as the proactive silence mode here. And Veil just resolves, which shocked me as I was playing the game, because I thought that this was a slow enough start that they probably had more stack-based interaction, but turns out that was not the case. So from here, it's a pretty simple Burning Wish, hold priority, crack our LEDs for black. Always want to use that Burning Wish ability. And then we're going to Peer into the Abyss, draw a million cards, 25 cards, and our opponent concedes the game because this is way more than enough to kill them. So in sideboarding, which I'll talk about on this screen because Magic Online doesn't have the sideboarding screen replays, at the time I believe that I wanted Chain of Vapor, Abrupt Decay, and Thoughtseize, and I thought that the best way to do this was to cut Ponders, which might not be correct. I talked a little bit about it with some other people later, and they thought that the Ponders were too important to the fundamental gameplay. But I thought that the Thoughtseizes being able to take a Chalice or a Mariner or just slow down their clock, as well as check for Force of Will, was valuable enough that I should have brought them in. I don't think I should have brought in all 3 Thoughtseizes, because bringing in all 3 takes away the scare game of Burning Wish for Thoughtseize, which is important in your Force of Will matchups. So let's get on to game 2. So we're on the draw, and I think this hand is like mediocre, but I think it's still a keep because we have this Thoughtseize, we have the Veil, so we have some disruption for our opponent. And we can definitely beat a Chalice on 0 with the Veil. So opponent just goes land go again. Draw a Lotus Petal for turn, which is not really what we're looking for, so let's fire off this Thoughtseize. I was willing to Veil a Force of Will on this Thoughtseize because it could be protecting a Chalice on one. So we see Force of Will, Gale Rider Sliver, Harmonic Sliver, and Sinew Sliver. So this is kind of an interesting Thoughtseize. I think Veil covers Force of Will, so we don't necessarily need to take that. I ended up choosing Harmonic Sliver because one of the things that this deck does is we play out a lot of our artifacts, and if this card is in play, then it takes away our ability to do that. So taking that card, especially with the speed of which our hand's are looking at, and this Force of Will not being threatening due to our Veil Summer, is what I chose to take. Or no, I did take the Force. Why did I take the Force? Maybe I just believe that I could go off faster than this card. I definitely thought about taking the Harmonic Sliver. Don't remember everything perfectly, so. Opponent draws Unclaimed Territory, naming Human, and they play Unsettled Mariner, which they drew off the top, but that's fine. I don't think we care, especially with this Veil Summer in hand. We can just resolve another one once we draw an Ad Nauseam or something like that. So I draw the Thoughtseize, and now I take the Harmonic Sliver. We pay the extra for the ability, because we just need to survive for a little bit longer. So let's clear up their hand. So they have Gale Rider Sliver and Sinew Sliver, and a freshly drawn card per turn. Opponent casts Sinew Sliver, so the Unsettled Mariner gets a buff, and we get knocked down to 13. This game is not going great. This is a hand that really needs a Brainstorm to get going. Unfortunately, we draw Chrome Mox, so that's the end of our turn. Our opponent gets to keep making aggro plays, and the rest of this game isn't super interesting because they kind of just kill us. We get one more draw step after this because we go to 6, so we need to do something like Brainstorm into an Echo line, something like that. Dark Ritual does not do it, and that's the end of game 2. Womp womp. I guess if one of these Thoughtseize was a Ponder, we'd have a chance. Okay, Bryant. So let's get to game 3. And now we get to be on the play. And our opening hand is very good. So this hand has protection against Chalice, it has protection against Force, and it has something to do. So this is a pretty easy keep. So we should lead on Taiga Lotus Petal, because I don't want to get Chalice on 0 out of this game. I want the Decay to be live. I think when I was looking at this opening hand, I thought about Empty the Wardens, but I think Empty the Wardens doesn't really win most of the time versus Slivers. I think that they're able to just beat up on it. So we draw Thoughtseize, and I think that there's an interesting consideration on this turn for Chrome Mox Imprint, either Dark Ritual or Abrupt Decay to cast this Thoughtseize. But I wanted to wait a little bit longer because I think I can beat most of their cards, and I didn't really need to play this Thoughtseize yet. And Thoughtseizes imprinting onto Chrome Mox to give us the black source for Dark Ritual is kind of important in this hand because we really need 3 colors. We need Jund to go off. Black for Ritual, red for Wish, green for Veil. So this is a fine turn to just pass. Not exactly the best start, so opponent plays Aethys One Canonist. Uh-oh, that's a problem. Now you kind of wish that you had Thoughtseized, but whatever, we can beat that. So I think that there's a temptation to Abrupt Decay on the opponent's end of turn, but I don't think sacrificing the Petal in our Mana Light hand is really what we want to do. Draw Tendrils for turn. This card can go into the Chrome Mox. We don't need this card in our hand. So but I think I wait a turn just to see what's happening because I think it's pretty free to take 2 from this Canonist. I think at this point, the plan in my head is to be either echoing or peering. So our life total doesn't really matter as long as it stays above 0. And opponent has no play. Oh, they have Predatory Sliver. Okay, so they play another bear. So now this gets spookier because now their clock gets faster. And we draw a land. This land is pretty huge for us here because this gives us access to blue mana, and it gives us access to Abrupt Decay on Canonist to stop taking more damage. So Decay is an instant we can just cast on their turn. I'm not worried about Veil of Summer out of their deck, even though they do have this Waterlogged Grove. So we don't want to take unnecessary damage from this Canonist, so decaying it pre-combat makes sense. Or before it does damage, really. Did I really take the damage? Guess I took the damage. I think I was waiting to see if there was like a chalice or something coming. This Wasteland is really annoying, by the way. We're definitely constrained on mana, and the Wasteland taking away our green source and our red source is kind of bad. So here we see the Underground Sea Taiga pair take down the Canonist. So this means that we're technically free to do things on our next turn. I don't know how many things we have to do, but we'll see. Opponent thought about making a play. I don't know what they were thinking about playing there, but I guess they didn't have the right colors potentially because this Cavern's on slivers. So now we draw Wishclaw Talisman. This is a card that we need to get into play. Putting Wishclaw into play and not burning any resources is basically like drawing a Dark Ritual at the expense of giving our opponent a Time Walk. I think that that's a good trade for us a lot of the time. And I think this Talisman's probably finding a Lion's Eye Diamond at some point. So here we're going to imprint one of our black cards. I don't remember which one we imprinted. I think it's probably still better to keep the Thoughtseize hanging around, though our life total is being attacked pretty aggressively. So I believe I pitched the Tendrils. Yeah. So now we get to put the Wishclaw Talisman on the stack. An opponent cracks their Waterlogged Grove in response. I guess they were looking for a Forcible effect, and I'm very willing to fight here because we have the second Burning Wish. And this card really needs to get into play. So we put Veil of Summer on the stack, and opponent has the second Force of Will. So they got to pitch Unsettled Mariner and Hibernation Sliver. So I think that's a good exchange for us. That's 3 for 4 because we had to sacrifice our Lotus Petal. And our hand is still gas. It really just needs a Lion's Eye Diamond, and then we get to Echo. And this bear comes rolling in. And apparently Magic Online likes to get stuck during combat. So draw for turn, LED. So this is a point where I think we could consider echoing, but there's one slight problem. No red source. So we just have to pass. I don't think playing the Thoughtseize out makes sense because we still are potentially multiple turns away from doing anything. So we're just going to sit here and get beaten up on by this Predatory Sliver. Again, neither of our engines are life total engines. Ad Nauseam is effectively dead this game. We're not really thinking about that. Draw Talisman. We're going to play it again. Opponent has another Force of Will. What the heck? So that makes me regret not casting the Thoughtseize, but I think our staying alive and just getting more draw steps is better than taking away things. This Cavern on human is definitely hurting them. So the reason why I played out this LED is because one of the cards I was thinking about them having potentially with a hand that's this clunky is Mindbreak Trap. So putting the LED out in the open early helps beat that card, even if we get to a point where we can't cast Thoughtseize and Peer. Opponent comes in for 2. We're stuck in combat again. Ow. Draw Volcanic Island. So this is a big decision point here. Do we Burning Wish for Echo and start that train? So let's count our mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 mana. That's just 1 short of Peer into the Abyss. And we're not really dying. So I think this is the turn to cast Thoughtseize to see what's going on in the opponent's hand. Do they have some nonsense in there that prevents us from going off? Play the Volcanic, cast Thoughtseize. Opponent shows us a hand of cards that they cannot cast. This is very good for us. So I think it's better to not give our opponent a fresh new 7 here, because it's relatively deterministic what they do if we take their haste sliver. They're hitting us for 2 or 3 next turn, and neither of those numbers matter, because right now we're at 5. If we go to 2, then we can still peer if we draw the land, and we can still echo next turn anyway. I don't believe that there's any draw in their deck that kills us here. Any one draw. So they bash in for 2. We go to 3. And off the top, it's Badlands. That's peer. We get to peer at 3 life. So Dark Ritual, Burning Wish, peer. And unless they drew exactly Mindbreak Trap, they don't have anything, because remember that their hand is a collection of red and white cards. So they can't even have drawn Force of Will. But it's not really like we have many other choices, and this is the best choice. So peer resolves, and that's kind of the game. I'm just going to speed through this because it's playing lots of random spells, and nothing really matters. So Tendrils on the stack, that's the game. So that puts us to 1-0. Update our record. And that's off to a good start. We beat kind of a hard matchup. And yeah. So the Thoughtseize were good here. That's one of the reasons why I like them. All right, round 2. So we're playing against Slod, who's another player who qualified, I believe, through top 8ing a showcase event. They're a known snow player. So we're playing against Snow. So what's important in that matchup? That's a matchup that gives us a lot of time to develop, a lot of time to make our mana, and being protected is the most important thing. Playing out Claws early is awkward because they have how many Okos they have. So that's the one thing to keep in mind. Okos and removal spells. Abrupt Decay turned out to be a very popular card choice for Snow players in this event because it's uncounterable and can kill Dreadhorde Arcanist. That's kind of what those people wanted it for. And we have to win a die roll, which is neat. So this is a fairly aggressive hand because it's very much an LED pitch echo type of thing. But we do have this Burning Wish for Thoughtseize, kind of disynergy with Echo, but that lets us start to do things. So I think it's a fine keep. We have a bunch of lands. I don't remember why I played out the LED. I think it might have been to play around discard. I don't know. Playing out the LED is likely not the play. I don't know why I did that. All right, so the second Burning Wish is pretty good because that means we get to kind of just throw one out into the void here. So we're gonna throw it out, find a Thoughtseize to be able to tell what's going on with our opponent. I'm not really fearing main deck Veil that much from these players. I don't think that there's much incentive for the blue players to do that. So now we draw Veil of Summer. So now we get to use Thoughtseize to help resolve our Veil. And then we just get to appear. So now we see their hand. It's Triple Force, Assassin's Trophy, and Cling to Dust. So I'm very much punished for playing out this LED, because if they had thought about blowing this up in response, then they get a very, very favorable trade. But we just have to take one of the forces here, and then our Veil gets countered, and then we get to Echo, is kind of the play here. It's possible I should have just taken the Assassin's Trophy so that they can't blow up the Veil and just let them with these forces that they can't cast all of. That might have been correct, because basically what happens is I cast the Veil of Summer, so it doesn't really matter what I take here. Yeah, I take one of the force negations, which I think is wrong in hindsight. So I play the player land, and now I cast Veil of Summer. So now opponent gets the chance to make use out of this Assassin's Trophy that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to. So we basically we get to miss out on a Storm Count and a Mox Opal, which is annoying, but whatever. So opponent fetches up Trophy, we crack in response, and now we have Echo once they force this Veil. So their hand is no longer that, so we can dismiss that. Echo on the stack gives us a pretty mediocre hand. And maybe if we had played out the Opal, we don't draw one of these. It's hard to tell. I don't know. So this is technically a whiff on Echo, but we're not dead. We have 7 more cards. We have a bunch more lands to play. We have a Brainstorm to start doing things. Opponent casts a Brainstorm of their own, casts a Ponder. So it's possible their hand is also not very good. So they cast a couple cantrips, pass. Draw Lotus Petal. This is actually not that bad because this gives us Metalcraft for our opals, but starting this turn on Brainstorm makes sense. Tap the Volk because we have the doubled red source and we want the black source. So now we draw more cantrips. This is not bad. We kind of just want to put back some of our lands here because we don't really need that many more lands, and also we're running out of fetchables. So I believe I put back Badlands Bloodstained Mire because we want the drop at some point to have multiple green sources. Let's seek a little bit so I don't talk my way in a corner. Yeah, put back, both dual lands, keep the fetches. Life total really isn't under pressure, so we get to fetch those away. Now we get to use our other blue mana and cast Ponder. We're not really going off this turn. Find Carpet of Flowers, which is just great here. And we find Burning Wish as a second, as another means of protection, so we can start to think about using Wishclaw to find Veil, or Burning Wish to find another Thoughtseize. There is a Thoughtseize in the deck, remember, that got shuffled in from Echo. Yeah, so we keep Carpet. I think I decline to shuffle. I choose not to shuffle, and we play Carpet. And here I decline to play the Claw and use the Carpet mana because I don't want to get the Claw elked because we really need it. Opponent has a Cling to Dust here. We don't really care about that. They just pay a mana, draw a card. So they play a land, and they have Oko. So played around it. Make a food, or they elk up, hit us for 3. Ad Nauseam is starting to look dicey. We draw Burning Wish, which we knew was there. So now we have this Carpet mana. So we have 2 Carpet mana and a couple of zeros in our hand. I think it's still right to start this turn on the Brainstorm, and we just draw more gas. So the next Brainstorm is not really that good because we can't shuffle this turn because I think this is our go turn, this is our window. So I think putting back either the the Brainstorm and maybe one of the mana sources is what we're supposed to do here, and then we get to cast Ponder to try and find a Veil of Summer. Yep. So Opal, Brainstorm, play Mire, fetch those away. We go to 12, find Swamp, cast Ponder, looking for Veil of Summer. We find Ad Nauseam, which is really interesting, I think, because this lets us do some wacky stuff with just like playing this out, like you get countered and then killing our opponent another way, just through Natural Storm. But I choose to draw the Dark Ritual because that's really what we're looking for, is the mana. So we start on Burning Wish. We don't really need a Storm Engine to win this game, guys. They're at 16. They've cast a couple Force Walls, fetched a couple of times. So Burning Wish is really terrifying, but in actuality, it isn't. So we find Tendrils. Storm is 3. 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if all the cards in our hand resolve, we win the game. Let's see what happens. So we start on Ality. We don't care if that gets countered. Start on Lotus Petal. They think. It resolves. Mox Opal. Think. Resolves. Dark Ritual. Resolves. We get to play the Talisman for free because we have plenty of mana, in case they do have like double Force of Will, which we even beat at this point. Because we can activate Claw for Veil of Summer in response to a Force. So now we have Tendrils for 9, and that's game 1. Up a game. Into game 2. On the draw, of course. So for sideboarding in this matchup, so I brought in both Decays and the sideboard Carpets, and we took out a pair of Chrome Moxes, a Mox Opal, and Chain of Vapors. Our mana isn't really under attack from Wasteland or something like that. Chain of Vapor gets countered, so Decay is kind of an upgrade to that. So keep this hand. It sounds pretty good. Got a pair of Dark Rituals, Brainstorm, bunch of lands. Again, this is not a matchup where you need to be fast. Opponent is playing around Carpet of Flowers. That's pretty clear at this point. Draw Lotus Petal, which isn't bad. First, find a land, go. Opponent has Canonist. Womp womp. Obviously, we need to kill this Canonist before anything can go on. Veil of Summer's a great draw, but really what we're looking for at this point is Abrupt Decay. Brainstorm finds Carpet. and some other stuff. Burning Wish for Grape Shot also kills Canonist, which is very neat. So opponent attacks us for 2. Fetch away our Brainstorm cards, find Taiga, get to play Badlands. We play out Witchclaw Talisman just to see if they'll do something to it. Then we get to play Carpet. And I get punished for playing out Talisman, which is kind of unfortunate. Because if I don't play this Carpet, they don't get to decay the Talisman. Because we just activate in response. This is really bad. So this is kind of a misplay to do this. Which is really unfortunate. So what would have been the better play is to sequence those the opposite ways, Carpet into Talisman, using the Carpet mana to play the Talisman. Opponent plays Ashley, land comes in for 2. Draw Tendrils. Is this another natural Tendrils game? That's kind of where my head is at the moment. So we need to think about Burning Wish for Grape Shot, which I think is what this turn is. And this just resolves, which is great for us. So right now we can Grape Shot for 2 to kill the Canonist through Petal, Grape Shot. We're still not dying super quickly. And then they have this card. I didn't really expect this, to be honest. I didn't really think that people were going to be playing this, but I guess this makes sense if you're expecting Doomsday to be a big player and has splash damage against me and somebody who's expected to play Ant. So we have to fetch in response. Now their clock is a little bit quicker. So they attack us for 5. We draw Brainstorm. So we don't need to go off this turn, so I'm just on Brainstorm. Trying to find our day, and we find Oodles of Mana, which maybe not what we're looking for. And I think casting Brainstorm into the opposition agent is awkward because we can't fetch. But putting back both LEDs here is kind of where we want to be. Or putting back... What did we just put back? I don't know. I don't remember. It's 2 cards that don't really matter. Because we're going to redraw one of them. And basically the plan is this game to play a bunch of artifacts, Grape Shot them, Tendrils them. We don't actually need to care about this opposition agent at the moment. So we play out our artifacts, we cast Grape Shot at Storm 5. So we're going to put 3 copies on the Canonist and 2 copies on them. 3 copies because we don't want them to be able to force 1 copy and let the Canonist survive. And we need the 2 copies on the opponent to count as a Storm for Tendrils, basically. So then we play Veil of Summer, which is going to get Force of Will because they just have to. They can't let this card resolve. So it's basically a forced bait from them, and then we cast Tendrils for lethal. Opponent has Veil of Summer, there's nothing we can do about that. It was a tight spot, and lethal on board. Veil sometimes gets us. Oh well. Game 3. We get to be on the play. So, whoops, click past that hand. But the hand had no lands in it, was very, very easy mulligan. This hand, however, is pretty good. Opponent has shown that they've been willing to keep in lots of decays and stuff, so I'm going to bottom the defense grid here. Don't really want that just like randomly getting blown up. And again, double Veil of Summer is really hard to beat for these snow decks, which don't have Dreadward Arcanist engines, and their engine's a little bit slower. Draw LED, which is just great. So, I think there's a consideration here to just fetch up Taiga and cast Veil of Summer to see if they'll counter it, because we are constricted on colors of mana. So basically we get to cast a 1-mana Hymn to Torok. But I decline that option and just pass. Because this hand is definitely looking to echo at this point. So they just play out their Astrolabe and pass. They have 7 cards in hand. It's a lot of cards. Draw Chrome Mox. This is a pretty good draw. This lets us Mox, Imprint, Veil, cast Veil, and then do things. I don't remember if I decided to do things, but that's an option available this turn. I think I might have decided that we're just waiting. Okay. I decided we're doing things. So here I make the play we could have made last turn and make our opponent counter it. Him to Torok. Pitching Leovold, which is very good, because Leovold would have ended any hopes of casting Echo Beyonds or using this Burning Wish to great effect. So now they just have to go land pass and hold up Force of Negation or something like that. Draw the Burning Wish, which now that can go under the Chrome Mox. So now we want to give them incentive to counter our stuff. Instead of just casting this out early, so we can cast Veil in response to something. So now we get Echo, Veil of Summer, Resolves, Smile. So now we get to do our LED Echo shenanigans with 2 mana floating and a land drop. Opponent fetches here. I was terrified of like a Hullbreacher or something. They should have Opposition Agent, which taps them out of Veil of Summer notably, because they showed us that they had that card. So this is scary. So this hand doesn't do anything into that, except, I mean, we can blow it up. So what do we do with this hand? So we have a land drop, so we have 4 mana. I think that the obvious place to start on this hand is Brainstorm into Decay, Opposition Agent, if the Brainstorm is bad. So Brainstorm can't be countered, finds Burning Wish, LED. That's some pretty good Magic cards. Because now we don't need to worry about this card, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana at Storm 8. That's Tendrils and Lethal. Crack our LED. Tendrils on the stack, 2-0. All right, round 3. We're against Wamo Combo, who's known for playing a variety of different blue decks, but I didn't know if it was going to be Delver or Snow at this point. So, kind of looking to keep a hand that's generic against blue dot deck. Unfortunately, this hand is great against blue dot deck. In theory, it's just not very good at playing Magic, so this is a mulligan. This hand's fine. It's a little bit underwhelming. It's pretty slow. If they're Delver, it's going to be probably an issue, but we're going to bottom this Moxel because we're pretty far from Metalcraft. Turns out, opponent is Snow. That's pretty good for us. I think we are very favored against Snow. Drawing the 4th land isn't exactly great, so we just get to play land go. Opponent has a forest, plays another Astrolabe, and passes. 5th land. This is why we play Brainstorm, ladies and gentlemen. And everybody else. More lands and a pair of Veils. I like the pair of Veils. We're just going to stick 2 lands back in our deck. Pretty easy. Then we get to pass, hold up our Veil of Summer, opponent casts a Brainstorm. We get to fetch away, find our trusty Tropical Island, if we can't find Taiga off Delta, find LED. This card's pretty neat. Enables this card pretty well. We have these cards for protection. I don't think we're really needing to go off yet, so we can just continue to cast Brainstorms and make our land drops. Or also see what the opponent does. Like, there's very little pressure here for us to go off. If opponent's going to just keep land passing, I am very content to play that game with them. Like, all the cards in our hand are fine. So this we're just going to sit until our opponent makes us go off. I mean, that's something that Ant used to do. TES used to not be able to do that, but that's what we're doing here, because TES can do that now. Opponent, Cycled Shark Typhoon. I don't know if this makes this deck miracles. I'm not quite sure what the delta is. I think the Underground Sea makes it Snow. It's generic blue deck with Force of Wills that doesn't play Daze is basically what we need to be concerned about. So opponent makes a shark. So that's pressure. So that means we could probably want to brainstorm on their end of turn. They get to cast a few more cantrips, continue to sculpt, and now they cast Labeled, which forces us to brainstorm. Find a lot of Veil of Summers in this Tendrils of Agony. This is not a very good brainstorm. So we're going to put back Veil Tendrils. Now we have 3 Veil of Summers. And we don't really need all 3 for our combo turn. We can't really cast all of them, so we're just going to cycle 1 here. Draw another LED. That's a lot of pretty good mana. Opponent bashes for 2. Drop Burning Wish. Hey, this card's pretty neat. I think this means that we can start to think about a natural storm line. Because I don't think that they're tapped out, so they can't draw to like a main deck Veil of Summer. And if they main deck Mindbreak Trap, neat, you got me. So we start with 4 mana in play. LED is 7, LED is 10, Opal is 11. We have these 2 Veil of Summers that, remember, can't draw cards. So what's our easy storm counts? We have 2 from Talisman, 2 from Burning Wish is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just 9 storm in our hand. So this hand can go off in just natural tendrils. And we have 2 Veil Summers, which means we might not even need to play the Witchclaw Talisman. So I think starting this turn on Veil makes sense. I don't remember what I actually did. I definitely thought for a while. Okay, so we start on Claw. And then we're going to play out our artifacts, see if they bite on anything. So now we get to cast Veil, which they force. Cast our other Veil. They got nothing. Storm is 7. So now we get to Burning Wish Tendrils. Burning Wish from our main deck. Tendrils of Agony on the stack. Label triggers infinite times. And they decide to concede the game. Game 2. Up a game. This hand is pretty good. We have a Carpet of Flowers with this Veil of Summer. We got Decay. We have 2 things to do. We have a Ponder, so I'm very inclined to keep this hand. Opponent mulligans to 6. Starts on a Floated Strand. So one thing to note is that you don't need to jam this Carpet on turn 1 into a fetch land, because this incentivizes your opponent to fetch weirdly. So you can just play this Ponder here. Look for another land. These cards are all great. Pretty much a keep. And these control matchups, just making your land drops and making sure that you have your mana established is what's important, because your cards are just going to be more impactful than theirs. So now we get to do this. And now we play Defense Grid, make them do something. It resolves this, probably means that they have a removable spell for it, which is fine, but it makes them fetch. I didn't expect this card. Who plays Blood Moon? I guess this means that it's like a good against the Delver heavy field, but I was very shocked by this card, which is obviously pretty devastating when we're tapped out. So the rest of this game is not very interesting. I don't even remember if I play another spell. We continue to draw mountains, they make a shark. I'm just speeding through this because this is not super interesting. Hoping to draw something that does something, just discarding whatever the worst card in the hand is. Drawing Lotus Petal is great because that lets us put the Carpet into play for a repeatable salt-colored source. Drawing Chrome Mox is great. We just need to be able to resolve the Disrupt Decay, and then the Null Rod comes down and we're out of outs. Yeah. So we got prisoned out of the game. I think I might decide to swap in another Chain of Vapor. Sideboarding for this match was exactly the same as the last one. So, game 3. It's kind of disappointing to lose to a Blood Moon, but what can you do? So we have to be on the play. With another slow controlling hand. We have a Decay, we have some cantrips, make our land drops, find an action spell. Those are some action spells. But the issue is that there's no lands in this pile, and I think that Petal, Carpet of Flowers gets countered isn't very effective a lot of the time. So I think I choose to shuffle this. This was like a tough choice in the moment. Like, these are obviously 3 great cards, but there's just not what this hand needs. Okay, I don't shuffle. There's another ponder that was like that I do choose to shuffle at some point, getting games mixed up. I think it's because I have the brainstorm, you get to keep that. Maybe next time I do one of these, I should like go through the games and like write down what happens first and before just, this is the first time I've like looked back at these again. So now we draw carpet for turn. I don't think it's very good for us to go pedal carpet. I think that gets countered a lot of the time and then we lose a lot of momentum. So let's just cast brainstorm here. I think about this for a while. That's why it takes a moment. So we draw the land and we draw 2 more action spells. We don't necessarily really need these because the rest of our hand is so good. I want to keep the decay because it looks like our opponent's doing nonsense permanent base things. So we're going to put back claw and wish here. And now we get to play the carpet, which resolves. We get to decline the trigger this turn and everything looks all good to go off next turn. Opponent casts ponder, plays a swamp. Opponent chose not to shuffle with this ponder notably, but we're just going here. We have ad nauseum with backup. I don't know if choosing to imprint that abrupt decay is correct. Could have just chosen to do that afterwards, but I didn't really want to burn the pedal on the Veil of Summer. So now we have ad nauseum with Veil backup. They force, pitch Shark Typhoon, and we Veil. Veil resolves, off to the races. I think this is the first time I've actually resolved ad nauseum this tournament. That's kind of weird to think about. Flip Tendrils, flip Claw, flip Defense Grid, flip Burning Wish. Now we're at 3. Uh-oh. This does not look like a very epic ad nauseum. So we do have a land drop. So effectively we have 2 mana, which isn't very good. Or sorry, 3 mana with the pedal in play. We don't need to win this turn. There's no pressure from our opponent. They pitched the card that can pressure us the most. So we're going to stop here to not die and just kind of play some stuff out. Play out another carpet. Basically upgrade our Lotus Petal from Lotus Petal to Carpet of Flowers. We get to cast Brainstorm. See what happens. Find Burning Wish LED, which, gosh darn it, is super close. Because now we have 5 mana from land drop Petal LED. But it's still not quite enough. We have a bunch of Veils, so we're just going to pass the turn here. Put back a fetch land, put back something that doesn't put back the Tendrils. And now we get to run out a defense grid under Veil of Summer. So now opponent has to answer this defense grid if they want to do anything. And we're setting up to Pier here. Opponent fetches, cast Brainstorm, cast Abrupt Decay targeting Carpet. So that's really weird. So that suggests that they don't have more forces. They're scared of us keeping mana, which I think is a fine decision. It means I don't have to worry about casting these Veils. We redraw the Tendrils, which is kind of awkward, but that's fine. We're just going to peer into the Abyss, which is only really for 16 cards. But if you look at this, it's just all gas. Notably, we do need to claw for Burning Wish for Tendrils because the main deck Tendrils has been discarded to Lion's Eye Diamond, but it's pretty simple from here. You just cast all your spells. Opponent really can't do anything. Claw, Tendrils, Burning Wish. Opponent is DED, dead. Which brings us to 3-0. Not bad. Seems like we might have made some good decisions at this point in terms of deck choice. Round 4. So we're versus Cool Ducat. Daniel is mostly known for playing Delver strategy. So I was expecting a very slow Uro-based Rug Delver matchup here. Another unkeepable hand. This hand is all mana. This hand is a trap. Don't keep all mana hands. 5 cards. All right, this is a pretty mediocre 5. It's got some stuff to do. It's got a Wish Claw. It's got this Chrome Mox. It does have the basics so we don't get wastelanded. So we can bottom Chrome Mox and Tendrils here pretty easily. Opponent leads on Misty. fetches a basic island. So I was like, okay, and then they play Astrolabe, which was very surprising, and I'm ecstatic about this when I was playing the tournament, because this means I don't have to play against Wasteland for another round. We draw Lotus Petal, which is mediocre. We just play Swamp Pass. Opponent plays Sylvan Library. That's cards for them. A little bit spooky. Now I kind of wish I had kept the Tendrils, to be honest. We are Chrome Mox, which is really underwhelming. So if we had kept the Tendrils here, if opponent pays a bunch of life to the Sylvan Library, we just get to kill them out of nowhere. Just by the hard cast Tendrils from our hand. Opponent decides to pay the whole 8 life. Plays Uro. Uro dies, passes the turn. They don't play a land notably here. So this means that they have 7 spells on hand. Which is a little bit spooky, so we're just going to keep passing. This is not that great for us. Opponent pays 4 life again, fetches down to 8. Now I'm really regretting abandoning that Tendrils, but I didn't know that this was how the game was going to pay out. So they play another Uro from hand and decline to flashback the Uro from graveyard. I guess that's because of just cards and graveyard reasons, which I didn't realize when I was playing. I have not played a lot of Uro. So opponent plays a land this turn. So this means that they drew a couple lands off the top of their Sylvan Library, and they drew 1 card. Opponent thinks about passing, plays a Brainstorm. Opponent's at 10, casts more cantrips. We draw Brainstorm. So now we get to Brainstorm, get rid of this stupid Chrome Mox from our hand, find Veil Summer Burning Wish. Alright, now we're going somewhere. So now the question is, can we win the game this turn? So we have to put back 2 cards, one of which is certainly this Chrome Mox, one of which might be a Lotus Petal or a Wishclaw Talisman, I think. Those are the options. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana at max. Opponent has seen so many cards at this point that I don't believe that they don't have 2 forces. I think that that's a reasonable position to be in. I didn't know this at the time, but Gul Dukat is only playing 4 Force of Will in their entire 75, which is kind of crazy to me. But again, you get warped decks from a warped metagame at a tournament of this size. So it's possible that he actually doesn't have 2 forces because they are only on the 4 Force of Wills. So given that it's likely at the time that I thought that they had 2 pieces of interaction, I think just passing the turn here is better. We put back Chrome Mox and a Lotus Petal. We cast, I hit the wrong button, and we just Burning Wish for the Tendrils. Make the Burning Wish seem super innocuous. It is awkward to note that we couldn't have protected that Burning Wish anyway. But if they counter that, it just eats a counter, and that's fine. Opponent declines to draw extra cards off the Sylvan this turn, and here we go for Flashback Uro. Opponent goes to 12. Plays a land. Plays back to basics. What is it with people in these 3-mana land destruction spells? Which gets us pretty good here, but we are kind of lucky that we have this swamp, to be honest. So that cuts down our mana production a lot. So we knew that we had a Lotus Petal on top, and I think that there's definitely an argument for fetching. But let's look at our hand. What can we do? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. So this is enough to cast almost all the spells in our hand. It would be 7 truly, but this Wishclaw can refund some of its own mana. So opponent knows we have this Tendrils. This means that the most important card in our hand is this Dark Ritual. This Bloodstained Mire can't find green mana to note. So we should start on the Lotus Petals. This is also the sideboard Tendrils. There's still a Tendrils in our deck, by the way. I'm going to close our sideboard for now so we can see the Storm count. Storm is 2. Opponent is only at 12, so we need Storm 6. Our hand is Storm 6, and our opponent's probably going to help out by interacting with this Veil of Summer, right? Or that's what we think. Cast Dark Ritual. Opponent immediately starts to tank on this. I think our opponent may have space brained themselves into not doing anything on our turn and assuming that we need the Storm count from them to win the game this turn. But turns out our hand just had it. So Dark Ritual resolves. Fetch. Find Badlands. Crack a Lotus Petal, cast Veil of Summer. Opponent enters the tank again. If they counter this, and they don't have another Force of Will, they die. If they let this resolve, they also die. Because Wishclaw can go find Dark Ritual to be the last couple of Storm Count. So that happens. Wishclaw goes, activate Wishclaw, circuit up Dark Ritual, Ritual, Tendrils. Opponent knows we have the Tendrils, so they concede here. Game 2. On the draw. And sideboarding is the same as we've sideboarded against Snow all the other times. Out the main deck Chain of Vapor, out 3 Moxen, into Carpet, into Decay. This hand is kind of clunky. It's got some stuff to fix it up though. So I think we keep this. I think I keep this. Yeah. So basically, again, cantrips are looking for lands. Lands and protection. We don't really need anything else. And the Brainstorm's probably going to put away one of the Burning Wishes as well. So we put the Ponder on the stack, find... sorry about that. But that was pretty easy shuffle. It's Abrupt Decay, Ponder, land. We don't really need any of those cards. We're looking for Veil of Summer, we're looking for Defense Grid, and we're looking for a land. So we shuffle it up, find Carpet. Yeah, it's pretty good when an opponent has Island in play. Again, there's no reason to peddle Carpet. That's not what this matchup is about. Don't need to do that. Against Delver, that's a different play, but this Volcanic Island's not going to get Wastelanded or some nonsense like that. Opponent's off to Cantrip Town is definitely playing around us having Carpet by fetching up the snow-covered forest. Draw Verdant. This is very good for us, because now we can cast the Carpet without the pedal. But starting on Brainstorm makes sense here. I wanted to incentivize our opponent to counter this, maybe think that we were looking for a land, because we're looking for protection, and if this Brainstorm trades with a Force of Will, which is kind of what we're looking for the cards we draw Brainstorm to do anyway, that's fine. They decline a counter, we draw a couple of lands and a Ponder. So this is pretty easy to put back a Burning Wish and a land. Fetch up a green source, play Carpet. They counter this, that's annoying, but largely fine, so Carpet resolves. That means we get to play Ponder this turn too. Do note that Carpet lets you make mana the same turn you play it most of the time, and that's really powerful. That's basically can pay for itself. That's a good Magic card. This might be the one that we shuffle, because this still isn't protection, although these turn into protection. So I think this is interesting because the LED and the Diamond and the Nauseam are obviously all great. Let's see. Okay. We don't choose to draw, so we choose to draw the Adnaz. Opponent fetches. I'm terrified of Leovold with these basics because Leovold plus Carpet is a very positive interaction for our opponent. Let's play this back to basics again. Fortunately, we have Carpet, we have LED, we have plenty of mana. Mana is not our bottleneck anymore. So I think I play out the Carpet. And we're just gonna use our Burning Wish, find Thoughtseize. Something to do. We have our Swamp that untaps. Opponent decays our Carpet. Annoying. But 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 mana. So Dark Ritual off the top gives us Thoughtseize protection for those Nas, and this Mox Opal is pretty good. So because we're constrained on mana now, we need to cast this Thoughtseize, see what they have. Sorry, click through that. So they had Force and a bunch of blue cards. So we take the Force Opal, which is the card that matters here, and we get to pass with basically our opponent in check, although they don't necessarily know it. Opponent casts one of their Uros. Plays a land. That wasn't one of the lands that they showed us. They didn't put this island into play. Huh. So we knew that one of their draw steps was a land, and then they play a second Misty. We know their hand now. We know that there's nothing that can stop us from going off. There's no fear. So we untap our land, we draw our Badlands, and we just get to go. Dark Ritual, Adnaz. So I do choose to crack the LED in response here because I think the mana is better than having a Talisman in hand. So Ad Nauseam on the stack. 3 mana floating. We start flipping bangers. So all we need now is to establish storm count, flip down to 6 anyway, just because we can. It's free. Opponent has nothing going on to stop us. Play all of our spells, cast a Veil for good measure, cast Tendrils at storm 12. Opponent is dead. That puts us to 4-0. So at this point in the tournament, because it's only 5 rounds of Swiss, remember, we're locked for top 8 at 4-0. That's pretty neat. All right, round 5. We're facing QB Turtle, and QB Turtle is very much known for playing Delver, so I'm actually playing against the best deck in the format for once here. So we keep this banger of a hand, double Veil, double Dark, right, ad nauseam. I don't think this is an incredible hand with 2 lands to boot. So opponent Bulk, Preordain. Pretty good start for them, but I like it when they do it. We draw Carpet for turn, so I just play the Carpet for free here. This helps us get multiple green mana next turn. We're gonna fetch up a drop anyway. If we get Wastelanded here, that's kind of annoying. It means we have to wait for more green mana, but this just eats a Daze, which is good because this means that Arcanist can't come down next turn. Opponent now has Delver. Okay, that's a cute Delver. We draw a land, so we have 2 options here. We could play land Veil of Summer and see if they interact with that. And we could try to double Veil them, but I think that that's not the best line. The best line could be just end step ad nauseam as trying to use Veil as cantrip. So I'm just going to play with the Badlands and pass. Don't want to take unnecessary damage for no reason. The risk to this is they flip their Delver and then we have 3 less life to work with, which doesn't happen. Opponent plays another Volk, plays Dreadhorde. Neat. We get hit for 1. And I think our opponent in the game F6'd here, I think that they didn't expect us to have instance on their end step because this Veil resolved really fast. Just snap resolved when I was playing. So now that Veil is resolved, we get to Rit Tendrils, or Rit Nas. Pop this out for us. Now we get to draw a bunch of cards. I still expect that they have Forceful at this point because of the accidental way that this resolved. Blue players, please don't F6 if you value winning games. Though, actually, keep F6ing. It's good value. Flip the Echo, have to stop here. Don't want to accidentally die to something, and we get to untap and draw. Our opponent has decided that they no longer wish to play Magic, and that puts us up a game. So then we get to game 2. And we're on the draw. Being on the draw against Delver is not always the best place to be. And this is a hand. So unlike a lot of other no-landers, this hand is a keep. It's not because of this Brainstorm. It's because we have Petal, Ritual, Defense Grid. And if we draw any red source off the top, red or black source off the top, we get to Wish, Defense Grid, and Echo very quickly. So I was also playing a little bit looser here. This round didn't really matter except for seeding in top 8. I still think this hand is a keep. This hand is very explosive. Draw Echo. That's just better. Now we don't even have to worry about Burning Wish wishing for Echo. So we get to Petal Dark Ritual. I'll play out the Elodies here in case they do Daze. And they think on this Ritual. I think that they probably should have dazed it. And then they decline, so it resolves. We get to play Defense Grid. Grid resolves. We crack for blue and red. Come on, Magic Online. And our Echo 7 is nuts. I clicked through a couple of rituals there, but this is pretty simple. Ritual, play our artifacts, Burning Wish, put Tendrils of Agony on the stack. It's kind of a neat turn 1 win. So we 5-0'd the Swiss. This was great. Deck felt great throughout the Swiss. Obviously, we still lost games, especially game 2s against Snow. So this puts us at 5-0, topping the Swiss. So I was super happy at this point. And now we're on to the quarterfinals. All right. So we lost the die roll because Magic Online doesn't implement any sort of advantage for being the higher seed, unfortunately. This hand is slow and kind of clunky, but I think it's worth keeping because we have three lands. Chromox is obviously not the best. Opponent leads on Trop Go. And I'm not quite sure what variant of Delver our opponent is playing. To talk about our opponent for a minute, they're normally known for playing the Karn Echoes deck in Legacy. Obviously, this is not that deck. We're playing against Rug Delver. So we draw a Veil for turn, and I'm wondering if they're on Stifle here, because they played Trop Go without a play, which is really weird to me. So I'm just going to be on Delta Pass. And now they cast a Preordain. I could have fetched in response here, but I didn't really want to get Wastelanded. And so they're just playing another land and pass. And again, there's no pressure on us. Like, opponent is refusing to apply pressure. So here I play Badlands, because if we get Wastelanded, Badlands is the land I'd most want to get Wastelanded. So we're just going to enjoy a little bit of land go. There's the Wasteland. Opponent declines, or no, opponent accepts Wastelanding us here. So they play Dreadhorde and pass. So now the pressure's on because the card is going to draw them a million more cards. And they're tapped out of Stifle. So now we get to play out some of our artifacts and play Lotus Petal off, or play Ponder off of them. So that's where we get to have Ponder and Shuffle if we want it. Playing out the Tigers, there's no reason not to. The cards are so good, but there's really not what we're looking for. Looking to shuffle, and we find Defense Grid. Huh. So, just play out Defense Grid. They force. I choose to Veil. They have another force. This is not looking so good for us. Opponent has Young Pyromancer. Attack with Dreadhorde, flashback your Preordain. Pretty simple. Pass the turn. Make a token. Upkeep, we draw a pretty good Magic card. So, there's a question here about what do we do on this turn. So, how much mana do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opal is 6. So we can't win the game this turn. Therefore, we just need to play Claw and pass. The reason I play out the Chromox here is to play around Daze, tap our lands, Talisman, go. Opponent gets another combat step. They don't have a cantrip though, which I like. They just have Delver, pass. At this point, there's not really options to keep waiting. Opponent has to show us Force of Will here. Otherwise, we kind of lose because Ad Nauseam is slowly getting turned off anyway. So we just have to put Naz on the stack and hope they didn't draw a third Force of Will. They have Daze, which we can pay for. Ad Nauseam resolves. We're going to flip a bunch of cards here. Find Chromox, find Mox Opal. I'm wondering if they have Lightning Bolt here. That's kind of one of the cards I'm playing around that makes sense to be the last card in their hand. So flipping too far here is in fact dangerous, and this is lethal. So I'm going to stop here. And fairly simple, play all your spells. Burning Wish, Tendrils, dead. All right, got game 1. Game 2. On the draw, keep a very fine hand. We have Carpet, we have Ponder, we have some fast mana, and a bunch of lands. Lands are great against Rogue Delver. Opponent is on this land go thing again. So I think we just answer with land go. Oh, so instead we're just gonna play Carpet through Daze, because this might incentivize them to do less things. Opponent might also have Pyroblast left up. Opponent plays Wasteland. This play always confuses me. Why not just wasteland me here? I understand that Arcanist is powerful. But now we have mana for this Ponder. Draw another land. Get to cast Ponder. We see no tutors. Shuffle. Find a Fence Grid. Not bad. So we get to play this. We'll definitely pay for days. Eats a Force of Will instead. Pass. Arcanist doesn't have anything to flashback. Okay, just 1/3. We can beat that. Draw Burning Wish. That's a magic card. So I think it's likely that opponent has Force of Negation here because they chose not to wasteland us. That's what this says to me. So we can just land go. There's not really anything threatening here. So now they wasteland us, play another land. It's possible opponent has floated out too. I'm going to play through these turns a little bit faster because they're not super interesting. It's a lot of passing. This Arcanist has yet to become threatening because opponent's just on land go. They're flooding out as much as we are. At this point, I'm hoping to draw a cantrip, I'm hoping to draw a Veil of Summer, I'm hoping to draw a Defense Grid. Now they found Preordain. That's bad. So at this point, I might get too antsy because I just cast this Burning Wish just to see what opponent will do. And they just crack all their fetches and force it. I wanted them to crack their fetches so the carpet got turned on more, but we didn't really need more mana. Mana was not the bottleneck, it's action. So we got our Burning Wish countered. Opponent attacks for 1, has nothing to flashback. So they have 3 cards in their hand that aren't 1-drops. So they might just be leaving up Hardcast Force of Will. We have another carpet. So we can add green, play a carpet, have actual infinite mana to do things with. So at this point, I think our best draw is a Brainstorm. So that's what I really want to draw. Opponent plays a Delver, plays a land, passes. We've drawn Talisman. So again, opponent isn't really threatening anything here, but now they flip Preordain. Now our life total is starting to get attacked. They get to Preordain twice, and this game is going nowhere quickly. So put Talisman on the stack, gets eaten by Hardcast Force of Will, and now we die. They have Chain Lightning. I chain it back, but that doesn't actually do anything because they get to chain it back as well, which I didn't think about, but it doesn't matter. We're dead no matter what we do there. So kind of a frustrating game where we flooded out. I think that maybe we could have waited longer on the Burning Wish just to see what happens, but it felt like they had started to get the Arcanist snowball rolling, which they never really got to. So this kind of felt like a cripple fight going on where our opponent just got a couple extra draw steps and cantrips that we really could have used instead of just drawing more accelerants. Game 3. This is a really interesting game. So we have to be on the play, which is always good against Rogue Delver. No lands. No initial mana source. This hand is so close. If this Tendrils is like Swamp or like card that does something, it's so good. So we mulligan into this hand. This hand is also very good. So now we get to bottom one of our fetch lands and cast turn 1 Brainstorm. Brainstorm finds more mana. So we don't need the LED here. We have plenty of mana overall. We just want more initial mana, so I put the LED in the ritual back, which this isn't really where we want to be. So we do that, fetch up a swamp and pass. I still think that they have Stifle in their deck for some reason at this point, just based upon the way our opponent was playing. So they play land pass. Oop. So we draw a Talisman, and obviously I decide to do something here. But this is a really interesting turn. So if they decide to counter a ritual, we pass. If our opponent counters Wishclaw Talisman, we get to empty. If the opponent gets to counter, or if the opponent decides to let Wishclaw resolve in Burning Wish, and counter Burning Wish, then we get to Echo. If they counter none of our spells, we get to Echo. So, sorry, let me back up. We have a bunch of options here because we have 2 tutors. We're going to cast both of them. That's the plan, starting by Talisman into Burning Wish. If Wishclaw resolves, then we get to have the option of tutor for Veil Summer on the stack. So here's Dark Ritual. Next up, we play Wishclaw Talisman. If Talisman resolves, we're going to Echo. If Burning Wish gets countered, we're going to Naz. If Burning Wish gets countered, we just pass the turn because we can Naz next turn through Daze. That's the one card to be concerned about here. So Talisman, they Brainstorm response, which I very much like. Now they have Force of Will. So now we're going to empty the Warrens for 12, which is a great amount on turn 2 when they have no board presence. I correct for blue to represent that we might be getting Echo here. So they are less incentivized to counter the Burning Wish. But here's empty the Warrens. So empty resolves. No red mana. Hit them for 12. Opponent? Brainstorm. Fetch land. Goes to 6. Blazing Volley. That's the risk of that line. I think it was the best line I had. I think that there are likely only 2 copies of that card in their deck. I don't even know how many they brought in. And that's unfortunate. Still have this Burning Wish, though. The opponent then plays Delver. Draw Lotus Petal. That's not bad. Pass. Starting to work towards rebuilding, towards tendrilizing our opponent. Opponent doesn't flip their Delver, plays Arcanist, and Arcanist is kind of going to run away with this game. I'm just passing through these turns quickly because our opponent's just doing nonsense here, like playing 3 Dread Hordes. So this is technically our window if I draw LED here, I think, where I could win the game, but we draw Wishclaw instead, which doesn't really do anything. We're in Dark Ritual, play Wishclaw Talisman and pass. Or sorry, play Burning Wish, get Tendrils and pass. Kind of burn our Storm count here, but just like gotta start doing something. And opponent just gets to like burr through all their spells here with Dreadhorde. And then they abrade our Wishclaw Talisman, which is super unfortunate. And we're kind of just dead at this point. Draw Carpet that we can technically cast, so we just need to not die here. To like a Lightning Bolt or something. So opponent casts Ponder. Yeah, and then they have the Chain Lightning and we're dead. So unfortunately the first loss of the tournament comes in the top 8. That's not really where you want to take your first loss. But I had a bunch of fun. Playing this tournament was great. Yeah, I wish that they didn't draw the red mana or the Blazing Volley, but I think I played well throughout the tournament. I hope that everybody enjoyed watching these matches back. In terms of the deck list, I love this deck list. I don't think I would have changed any cards for this tournament. Maybe you change them more for a more open field, where Carpet of Flowers is going to be good game 1 less often, but I think that you can just pitch it away to Brainstorm or to Chrome Mox most of the time to make it okay. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, please comment if you saw any lines that I missed or didn't talk about, or just, make sure to leave us a follow on Twitter, on Twitch. This has been a great end of the year. I'm super excited with how this year went Magic-wise for me, not necessarily any other ways. I think I improved a lot. I think this tournament was super fun to prepare for. And yeah.
Hey, Brian Cook here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, but also follow the social media channels down below. If you want to support this content directly, I would recommend going to theepicstorm.com/shop. And if you need a little bit of assistance with the Epic Storm to get to that next level, I would recommend going to theepicstorm.com/tutoring. Don't worry, there's more great content coming right up.